Page 327 at the bottom. We're reading about the new creation. That new creation which emerges as from a seed in the house of the Spirit. I think it's the creation, the ideal creation that King Asvapati has been longing for, and now it is as if the gift granted to him after all his tapasya, that he's able to see, not only see that world, he even becomes a part of it. And we're told that everything that in our world is lost, there has its divine place. And that the powers, the divine powers that we experience here in a limited and therefore distorted form, they betray our hearts and they lead us astray. There, they are sovereign in truth, perfect in joy, possessors of their own infinitude. And the three powers that he mentions are the power of mind, of life, and of substance, of matter. So last time we read about mind, and that description about the wonderful divine mind, the way that it operates on those heights, that ends on line 386. So we'll continue from there about life, just the last two lines on page 327. There life pursued, unwearied of her sport, joy in her heart and laughter on her lips, the bright adventure of God's game of chance. In her ingenious ardor of caprice, in her transfiguring mirth, she mapped on time a fascinating puzzle of events, lured at each turn by new vicissitudes to self-discovery that could never cease. Ever she framed stark bonds for the will to break, brought new creations for the thought's surprise, and passionate ventures for the heart to dare, where truth recurred with an unexpected face, or else repeated old familiar joy like the return of a delightful rhyme. At hide and seek on a mother wisdom's breast, an artist teeming with her world idea, she never could exhaust its numberless thoughts and vast adventure into thinking shapes, and trial and lure of a new living's dreams. Untired of sameness and untired of change, endlessly she unrolled her moving act, a mystery drama of divine delight, a living poem of world ecstasy, a kakemono of significant forms, a coiled perspective of developing scenes, a brilliant chase of self-revealing shapes, an ardent hunt of soul looking for soul, a seeking and a finding as of gods. Their matter is the spirit's firm density, an artistry of glad outwardness of self, a treasure house of lasting images, where sense can build a world of pure delight, the home of a perpetual happiness. It lodged the hours as in a pleasant inn. The senses there were outlets of the soul. Even the youngest child thought of the mind incarnated some touch of highest things. Their substance was a resonant harp of self, a net for the constant lightnings of the spirit, a magnet power of love's intensity, whose yearning throb and adoration's cry drew God's approaches close, sweet, wonderful. Its solidity was a mass of heavenly make. Its fixity and sweet permanence of charm made a bright pedestal for felicity. Its bodies, woven by a divine sense, prolonged the nearness of soul's clasp with soul. Its warm play of external sight and touch reflected the glow and thrill of the heart's joy, mind's climbing brilliant thoughts, the spirit's bliss. Life's rapture kept forever its flame and cry. All that now passes lived immortal there in the proud beauty and fine harmony of matter plastic to spiritual light. Its ordered hours proclaimed the eternal law. Vision reposed on a safety of deathless forms. Time was eternity's transparent robe. An architect hewing out self's living rock, phenomenon built reality's summer house on the beaches of the sea of infinity. Okay.
Well, life pursued unwearying sport, joy in her art, and laughter in her lips. And their bright adventure of God's game of chance.
Yes. So life personified, the spirit of life, she's pursuing, following, hunting after the bright adventure of God's game of chance. It's one of the characteristics of life, even here, is the way that it's always looking for the unexpected, the adventurous, the element of surprise, no? So that remains there in that new creation. She doesn't get tired of this game of hers. She doesn't get tired of pursuing this adventure. There's always joy in her heart. Here there's so much suffering in life, no? And here laughter always alternates with tears. But there's a constant joy and laughter, and this constant pursuit of the bright adventure of God's game of chance, playing with the random and the unexpected.
In her ingenious ardor of caprice, in her transfiguring mood, she mapped on time, a fascinating puzzle of events, viewed at each turn by new vicissitudes, to self-discovery that could never cease.
So ardor is enthusiasm, eagerness, no? And he says it's an ardor of caprice. Caprice is when we do things for no particular reason, just because we feel like doing them. No? And he says this life also is ingenious. She's always finding new and clever ways to do things. No? Somebody is ingenious. Of course, an inventor has to be ingenious. He has to find ways of dealing with matter and so that's the state that she's in, pursuing this adventure with this ingenious ardor of caprice, doing things just for fun. Her mirth, this is laughter, merriment. No? That mirth of hers, that laughter, is transfiguring. It changes things, changes the forms of things. And she's mapping out on time. Things happen in succession. So she's going from one thing to another. She's mapping out a fascinating puzzle of events. It's one thing that the life spirit in us enjoys, is a puzzle that presents some kind of a challenge, and that what is to be overcome, that keeps us fascinated, interested. No? And she's attracted at each turn of this puzzle or maze of events. She's attracted by new vicissitudes. Vicissitudes is a word that we use usually in a negative sense. It means challenging circumstances. We have to make our way through life, and we have to face all the vicissitudes, all the unexpected, challenging things that come up. But here she's attracted by these new vicissitudes, these new challenging circumstances. She's lured to self-discovery that could never cease. So that's true for us as well, that if vicissitudes come and we have to deal with them, somehow we discover something new about ourselves, new possibilities in ourselves. So there it is something, a never-ending, joyful progress and adventure of self-discovery, unending self-discovery.
Ever she framed the stark bond for the will to break, brought new creations for the thought's surprise, and the passionate adventurers for the heart to dare, where truth recalled with an unexpected face, or else repeated all the familiar joy, like the return of a delightful bride.
So life is always creating new challenges for herself, stark bonds, as if there are limitations that have to be overcome, no? For the will to break. She presents things that seem to be difficult or even impossible, so that the will can have the joy and delight of overcoming those difficulties, those challenges. And she's always bringing up new creations to surprise the thought, the mind, and presenting passionate ventures for the heart to dare. Again, it's kind of challenges, no? Can you do this? Some new task, some new that has some risk in it. Yes, a venture has risk. That's right. Thank you, Eve. So the heart will take a dare to see whether it is strong enough and to achieve these new things. And in the course of all these challenges and surprises and ventures, truth is always coming back. Either it's coming back with a new and surprising and unexpected face, or else it's coming again in a familiar form that you recognize and say, oh, how beautiful. A familiar rhyme. In poetry, words that end in the same sound, it's a rhyme. And it can be very, very charming if a poet uses rhyme skillfully. It can be so delightful to hear the repetition of the same or similar rhymes over and over again. You've heard the sound once, and you're happy to hear the similar sound again. So truth comes back like that. You recognize it, and you enjoy recognizing it.
And hide and seek on another wisdom's breast, an artist teeming with her word idea, she never could exhaust its numberless thoughts, and vast adventure into thinking shapes, and trial and view of a new living's dreams.
Yes. So she's playing hide and seek with herself. But this is all protected. All this is happening on the breast of a mother wisdom. Life is like an artist teeming with her world idea as if she's her imagination, her power of conception is full of new, bright, creative ideas and possibilities. She can never come to the end. She could never exhaust that stock of numberless thoughts. There's no end to them. And these new, she could never come to the end of this vast field of adventure into thinking shapes, conscious shapes. And the trying out, testing, and the attraction of the dreams of a new living. There's something forever new and fresh about this divine life. And yet it has all the characteristics that we recognize, that we enjoy, and that give meaning to life for us here. Adventure and risk and challenge and fun and all this. You like to read Mahalingam? Yes?
Untired of sameness and untired of change, endlessly she unrolled her moving act. A mystery drama of divine delight, a living poem of world ecstasy, a kakamono of significant forms, a coiled perspective of developing seeds, a brilliant chase of self-revealing shapes, an ardent hunt of soul looking for soul, a seeking and a finding act of God.
So she never gets bored or tired or weary. No, she's untired. Even if there's sameness, it's delightful. And even if there's change, constant change, that's delightful too. So endlessly she's unrolling, unfolding this moving act, this play of life. And it takes all these different forms. It takes the form of a drama, a mystery drama that's full of divine delight. A poem, a living poem. These are works of art, no? A poem that expresses the ecstasy of manifestation, of being, of world. A kakemono of significant forms. You know what is a kakemono? It's one of these scrolls that they have in Japan. I think they have a special place, a kind of niche in the house, where they will, according to the season or the day, they will hang a beautiful scroll which will have perhaps written on it in calligraphy, in beautiful decorative handwriting, a poem, or there will be a painting, or both, no? And a beautiful seal. It's an object of significant beauty for meditation. And then perhaps there'll be a beautiful flower arrangement to go with it. You know? So it's like a place to worship significant beauty. So the kakemono is the scroll on which something is drawn and painted. A coiled perspective of developing scenes. Perspective is a technique in art that gives a three-dimensional effect to a picture. That makes some things in the picture look further away than others. That's how it's used in Western art, and we see it used in stage scenery. We'll have a flat picture at the back of the stage, but maybe it will show a street or a landscape that gives depth to the stage. But I think in Eastern art, they use perspective in a different way. They will show a kind of movement of events or of scenes in a coiled perspective. So it's not that you are looking into a distance, but that your eye is led from one scene to another scene, to another scene, to another scene. So these are developing scenes. The eye is led on from one thing to another. Or like this game of hide and seek, a hunting for soul, one soul hiding from another, and that fun of seeking and searching and hunting and finding. A seeking and a finding as of gods. Joel.
Their matter is the spirit's firm density, an artistry of glad outwardness of self, a treasure house of lasting images, where sense can build a world of pure delight, the home of a perpetual happiness. It lodged the hours as in a pleasant inn.
So what is matter? For us it's a firm density. No? But there in that new creation, it is felt and experienced to be a density of spirit. No? Not a density of atoms or a mass. It's a firm density of spirit. So the forms that are shaped in this density, he says there's an artistry about them. The forms are beautiful, and they express a glad outwardness of self, self expressing what is within in terms of surfaces and forms. A treasure house of lasting images. That's one of the characteristics which matter has for us. It's not indestructible, but it lasts. And if you arrange things in a room, they stay like that for some time, no? Until somebody comes along and moves it. So this kind of lastingness, this permanence of matter is an important one of its characteristics. So there, these forms are images, wonderful, beautiful images, and this substance creates a treasure house of lasting images, where sense, it's the senses that relate us to this world of matter, no? There, the sense can build a world of pure delight. So that matter becomes the home of this perpetual happiness of the mind and the life and the spirit, and the hours, the moments of time can live in that house as in a pleasant inn, he says. I wonder sometimes what was the image in his mind, but perhaps an inn is a place where you go on holiday. No? It's not your home. You don't have to do the housework or look after the things. Somebody else is doing that. So it's a place of leisure and ease, relaxation, refreshment. Alex?
The senses there were outlets of the soul. Even the youngest child thought of the mind incarnated some touch of highest things.
So for us, I suppose for us too, in a way, the senses are outlets of the soul, but basically they're the way that our mind, our awareness relates to something outside ourselves. No? But here it is the soul experiencing things in a particular way, in this mode of touch and taste and sense, maybe even expressing itself in those ways. And even the youngest child thought of the mind, every little idea that came up, took a form, incarnated some touch of the very highest things. So there's, on all the levels of substance, there's something divine and beautiful. Laura?
Their substance was a resonant part of the self, a net for the constant lightness of the spirit, a magnet power of love's simplicity, whose yearning thought and adoration's cry, good God's approach is close, sweet, wonderful.
So matter, substance, was like a harp. A harp is one of these musical instruments with many strings. And these strings resonate with each other. These are strings on which the self, the being, resonates. It's also a net. Sri Aurobindo often speaks of our senses as a net. They catch hold of the sense impressions and give us some information about the world around us. Here, the substance is catching hold of these constant lightnings of the spirit, these flashes, constant flashes of consciousness coming from the spirit. It catches hold of them. It's a magnet power of love's intensity. A magnet is something that has a power of attraction. No? So here it's as if substance itself has that power of attraction. It's an intense, dense form of love. And it's got all that yearning throb, that beating heart of longing and a cry of adoration. All this is getting expressed in the substance, and it's attracting, it's drawing God's approaches close, sweet, wonderful. I suppose in a way that's what loving bodies do, no? Can experience in some way. And here it's the whole mass of substance is full of that intensity of adoration and yearning and love. Yuli?
Its solidity was a mass of heavenly make. Its fixity and sweet permanence of charm made a bright pedestal for felicity.
So this matter which he's talking about, this divine matter, is quite different from this dull, unconscious, inert matter that we know here, no? Its solidity, this density, is a mass of heavenly make. It's a divine nature that's been formed by something divine. Like this matter, it has fixity, it doesn't move, but this is a sweet permanence of charm. There's something delightful about that fact that it is fixed. And this makes a bright pedestal for felicity. A pedestal is that firm block on which we put a statue. No? It's a base, a firm base. So this fixity of this divine matter is a base for delight, for happiness. Martin?
Its bodies woven by divine sense prolong the nearness of soul's glass with soul. Its warm play of external sight and touch reflected the glow and thrill of the heart's joy, mind's climbing brilliant thoughts, the spirit's bliss, life's rapture kept forever its flame and crown.
So the bodies that are made of this substance, they are woven by these divine senses, capacity of feeling. And what they do is, instead of separating soul from soul, as our bodies seem to do, seem to create a barrier between the souls, they are prolonging the nearness of soul's clasp with soul. The soul within can clasp, embrace the other souls, but normally our bodies don't participate in that clasp. But these bodies do. No? They prolong this nearness. And these this divine sense with its warm play of external sight and touch is reflecting what is within, the glow and the thrill of the heart's joy, the thoughts, the brilliant climbing thoughts of the mind, and the spirit's bliss. All these things are being experienced and reflected in the substance of the body. So the intense delight of life keeps forever its flame and cry. It's not that the body forces it to fall into sleep and unconsciousness and weariness. The bodies can reflect that glow and thrill of the life and the mind and the spirit. Patricia?
All that now passes lived immortal there, in the proud beauty and fine harmony of matter, plastic to spiritual light.
Yes, it's been explained to us, no, that the reason why bodies have to die is because they're not able to keep up with the growth of the spirit that's inhabiting the body. This matter that our bodies are made of, it's not plastic enough, it's not flexible enough, it's not responsive enough to be able to go on growing and living and developing and renewing itself and reflecting the experiences of the growing soul within. So there it's quite different. That matter there is plastic to spiritual light. It's able to respond, and so it's able to express beauty. It can feel pride in expressing this beauty and this fine harmony. So everything that here passes, everything that is impermanent here, can live immortally there. Eve?
Each order of ours proclaim the eternal law. Vision reposed on the safety of deathless forms. Time was eternity's transparent robe.
This speaks about the time there, in that new creation. The hours are ordered, and they are expressing, they're proclaiming, speaking out the law, the eternal law, the law of truth and reality. The power of vision, everything that one sees can rest on a safety of deathless forms. That state of immortality must have a wonderful feeling of security and repose. And all through that experience of time, immortal time, it's just like a transparent covering over eternity. So the eternal and everything that is eternal can be seen through that transparent robe of time. It's just a clothing or a covering that it puts on itself. Prasanna?
An architect viewing ourselves living out phenomenon-filled realities summer house on the beaches of the sea of infinity.
Phenomenon. Phenomenon is something that happens. It's becoming rather than being. So here he says this becoming is an aspect of being. It is a way in which being allows itself to be shaped. So the phenomenon, the becoming, is like an architect, a designer, but he's building with the self, with being, with existence. And so he's building a summer house. A summer house is a place where you don't live permanently. You live for some time, no? And it suggests summer holidays and pleasant times, no? So this phenomenon, becoming, is building a pleasant habitation out of the being of self It's building this pleasant habitation for what is really real, reality. And it's building that as if on the beaches of the sea of infinity, a place of play and recreation. That the becoming is presenting for being this delightful habitation. So that completes the description of this new creation. Let's read these lines together from the bottom of page 327. Their life pursued, unwearied of her sport, joy in her heart and laughter on her lips, the bright adventure of God's game of chance. In her ingenious ardor of caprice, in her transfiguring mirth, she mapped on time a fascinating puzzle of events, lured at each turn by new vicissitudes to self-discovery that could never cease. Ever she framed stark bonds for the will to break, brought new creations for the thought's surprise, and passionate ventures for the heart to dare, where truth recurred with an unexpected face, or else repeated old familiar joy like the return of a delightful rhyme. At hide and seek on a mother wisdom's breast, an artist teeming with her world idea, she never could exhaust its numberless thoughts and vast adventure into thinking shapes and trial and lure of a new living's dreams. Untired of sameness and untired of change, endlessly she unrolled her moving act, a mystery drama of divine delight, a living poem of world ecstasy, a kakemono of significant forms, a coiled perspective of developing scenes, a brilliant chase of self-revealing shapes, an ardent hunt of soul looking for soul, a seeking and a finding as of gods. Their matter is the spirit's firm density, an artistry of glad outwardness of self, a treasure house of lasting images, where sense can build a world of pure delight, the home of a perpetual happiness. It lodged the hours as in a pleasant inn. The senses there were outlets of the soul. Even the youngest child thought of the mind incarnated some touch of highest things. Their substance was a resonant harp of self, a net for the constant lightnings of the spirit, a magnet power of love's intensity, whose yearning throb and adoration's cry drew God's approaches close, sweet, wonderful. Its solidity was a mass of heavenly make. Its fixity and sweet permanence of charm made a bright pedestal for felicity. Its bodies, woven by a divine sense, prolonged the nearness of soul's clasp with soul. Its warm play of external sight and touch reflected the glow and thrill of the heart's joy, mind's climbing brilliant thoughts, the spirit's bliss. Life's rapture kept forever its flame and cry. All that now passes lived immortal there, in the proud beauty and fine harmony of matter plastic to spiritual light. Its ordered hours proclaimed the eternal law. Vision reposed on a safety of deathless forms. Time was eternity's transparent robe. An architect hewing out self's living rock, phenomenon built reality's summer house on the beaches of the sea of infinity.